And a good Monday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here on 13 WMAZ Plus for a look at your extended forecast. I have a couple things to go over this week and a couple of what ifs really with our forecast. Virtually, it's kind of remaining of the same pattern for the month of July. Hot temperatures, humidity sticking around, and rain chances each and every day. But first things first, we had some big time heat to end the weekend on the last Sunday. See, taking a look at the high temperature, 96 degrees, 2 degrees above average for this time of year, and 108 was the record back in 1980. So we didn't even sniff the record. We were falling short by about 12 degrees, which is not a bad thing whatsoever. Because if you were to pair that number up with some of the humidity that we have in the forecast, it would have very likely feel like the 120s in some areas throughout the afternoon hours. So the weather could always be worse, even if today is going to be on the hotter side. Rain departure right now, you see it's about 3 inches above where we should be this time of year. So yet another day we didn't record any rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. Sunrise 6:37 yesterday and sunset at 8:44 yesterday to wrap up the weekend. So let's talk about our July rainfall. At least here at Middle Georgia Regional Airport in southern Bibb County, we've actually recorded rain on 4 days, but all 4 of those days, the totals of rain have fallen below 1/10 of an inch. So when you add them all up so far, our total this month so far is only a mere 2/10 of an inch of rain, which is well below our average July rainfall of nearly 5 inches, and then our record back in 1994. Of course, the flood of 94 producing about 18 inches of rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. Some totals definitely even got above that 18 inches in some isolated spots during the flood of 94. So taking a look at July so far, it has just been a straight downward trend. All these days that we've recorded rain didn't do much in terms of relief and maybe putting us back closer to near normal for the month. So we are hovering in the very dry category as of the 13th, and I wouldn't doubt with another day or two of no rain in the forecast, we could be exceptionally dry for the month of July as a whole. Overall, we are still trending above average where we should be this time of year by about 3 inches of rain so far. So we have that cushion. We can continue into a dry stretch of weather and still hover above average. But let's take a look at your headlines. Scattered showers and storms still going to be a possibility each and every day because we will be staying hot, we will be staying humid all week long, but today more so than the rest of the work week. We'll go into the specifics with that. And we are watching the Gulf, potential tropical disturbance that has been outlined by the National Hurricane Center over the past weekend, and that was something we were talking about. We didn't have any tropical activity expected over the week span that we were looking ahead, and now we were talking about maybe the Climate Prediction Center talking about a less than 20% chance of an area in the northern Gulf maybe developing. Well, that's where we see the outlook now. So we'll go over the latest update with that coming up in just a few minutes as well. Let's take a walk around the quad. Nice and blue skies all over Central Georgia. Warner Robins down here in the bottom right, Dublin up in the top right, Macon in the top left, and then the Georgia National Fairgrounds in the bottom left. Not much in the way of cloud cover, and that is why our temperatures just continue to creep up. How about some mid-80s? 88, a pretty popular number, trailing from Sparta and kind of looking like the seam of a baseball right here if Central Georgia was the baseball. 88 all the way from Sparta through Milledgeville, Gordon, down to Dublin, and then Vidalia in our south and our southeast. Temperature-wise, it's not too bad compared to where everyone else is in the southeast. Numbers are pretty similar. 86 in Charleston, 86 in Jacksonville, 88 in Panama City, along with the 88 over in New Orleans. Southern Texas hanging out in the mid-80s, but going up to the north and the northeast, this eastern seaboard of the United States has just been very warm since we really got into the thick of summer. 84 in Charlotte already, 84 in Virginia Beach, and then once you make it up to Washington, D.C., 82 degrees, so not too far off what our numbers are here in Central Georgia. Dew point temperatures, lots and lots of dark green still remains in the forecast, but not necessarily as humid as some days last week. We were talking about dew point temperatures at this time before the 11 a.m. hour that were maybe 80 degrees down in Dooley County, down in Chris County. I even saw an 84-degree dew point last Friday afternoon. Thankfully, these numbers are about 10 degrees shy of that threshold, but we can find the muggiest air right now according to this Four Corners area of Johnson, Washington, Wilkinson, and Lawrence County, where you see that shade of dark green, and it does correlate to a patch of pink right now on the feels like numbers. So it looks like just about everyone, in fact, yes, everyone is feeling 90 plus right now already before we even get to lunchtime. At the warmest, we find Gordon at 101, 99 in Dublin, feels like 99 in Sandersville, actually another 101 down there in Telfair County around the McRae area. Everyone else somewhere scattered about the 90s, and we'll continue to see those numbers tick up over the next couple of hours. Winds and wind gusts, not too breezy as of right now. We have a bit of a northerly breeze across central Georgia, maybe a steady breeze up to 9 miles per hour, sustained at some times. And as we go throughout this afternoon, we'll see a slight breeze continuing to be out of the north, maybe up to 15 miles per hour at the very most. But overall, it's going to be blowing that sizzling hot air in your face, that warm and that muggy air all over the place. So probably not feeling the best if you are spending an extended amount of time outside this afternoon. So afternoon rain chances are still in the cards, but it doesn't look like we have much relief in terms of some rain-cooled air, at least widespread across central Georgia. Most areas probably going to dodge the rain today, but a stray shower or a stray thunderstorm could be possible in a select few areas. 97 for a high temperature, that will put us 1 degree above what we hit yesterday and definitely a couple degrees above average. It would get us really close to some of the warmest temperatures that we have seen in the year of 2025. We'll talk about that more in just 1 second as well. But here's a look at your heat indices today. Not only are we hanging out in the low 100s, this is an extended period of time. We start out feeling like the triple digits around noon, and we don't stop feeling like the triple digits all the way until we get to about 8 a.m. later tonight. That's when we get closer to sunset. So we have a little bit of fluctuation with these numbers. Overall, the big thing with the heat today, it's going to be sustained for a longer period of time. It's not going to be very brief that we pop up, say 104 at 2 p.m. and then some rain pops up in the picture and it would knock these numbers down somewhere into the 90s, maybe even into the 80s if it was a heavy shower or a thunderstorm. So not much relief in terms of getting some rainfall later on today, and that's another reason for the continuation of this heat advisory. We had one issued yesterday, and we have another one that will be issued for today. Going to go until 8 p.m. tonight for feels like temperatures of 105 all the way up to 109 degrees in a select few spots. Again, if you get some patchy areas like that dark green that we saw in Wilkinson, Washington, Johnson, northern Lawrence County, where the dew point temperatures are just a tad bit higher than the rest, of course, that can make the feels like number feel a couple degrees warmer. So we could have some patchy areas that get up to this 109 mark later on today. I wouldn't even doubt that an area or two exceeds that and maybe gets to 110 or 111. But widespread across central Georgia, we're just looking at a really good window of a couple of hours of at least feels like temperatures of 105 degrees that could be possible all across our neck of the woods. The heat advisory is not only for central Georgia. You can see it goes for east central Georgia as you make your way over towards South Carolina. Counties to the north of us, really spanning all across the I-20 corridor, getting up into Athens, and then over to the west of us as you make your way over to Columbus. So not the entirety of the state of Georgia, indicating that areas closer up to the metro Atlanta corridor are not going to feel like heat advisory criteria, but they are still going to be very hot. Regardless if we have these, it's always a good reminder to take care of your body and make sure that you're staying hydrated, you're keeping your body cool, whether that's going and taking breaks in the shade, in the AC, and making sure that you protect yourself in that blistering UV index where you can get sunburnt, and continuing to apply sunscreen when you are spending time, extended periods of time outside. So here's your satellite and radar picture. Pretty much quiet, has been quiet all morning long. Haven't seen much in the way of cloud cover, and really in the entire southeast it is a relatively quiet picture. But this down here over to the east of Florida, we can start to see a little bit of bubbling up of some deep convection associated with some cloud cover. So there's plenty of clouds over towards the east, and this is going to be a good amount of showers. That's just the satellite image that you see down there off the south and the southeast coast. We'll get more into that in just 1 second, but first things first, let's take a look at the newest model run of FutureView, because FutureView was not showing anything in the way of rain chances earlier today. Well, this first pause point is going to be at 4 o'clock later this afternoon. That does look a little bit better and kind of correlates with what the SPC outlook does say. A couple of scattered showers, the better chance going to be the farther south and southeast that you live. And then as we go into the nighttime hours, maybe a couple of thunderstorms trying to hold together pretty strong. wouldn't take it or rule it out of the cards completely of seeing a strong or maybe even a severe thunderstorm warning later today. That's just what happens when you typically get that warm and that muggy air in the forecast, and it can allow for the conducive environment for the formation of some stronger or more intense weather in some pretty isolated spots. But that will be the name of the game. Only a slim chance of seeing rain throughout today. We go into your Tuesday afternoon. Not too good of a chance of rain either, but still scattered showers, maybe a storm or two in the forecast. And then we go all the way into Wednesday, where the big thing I want you to take away from this isn't necessarily the rain chances. Of course, it's still going to be of the same kind and the same variety of rain, scattered showers, maybe a storm or two in the forecast. But these winds, take a look at where they're coming in from, starting to come in from the south and the southeast. But not only that, they're kind of going over to the west and then eventually back down to the southwest. A little bit of a counterclockwise direction with some of the winds that we have on Wednesday morning, and that will continue into Wednesday afternoon. That could propel some moisture from down to the south of us into our neck of the woods, but it still doesn't look like really impressive rain chances, even if that sector over there towards the west does try to creep into central Georgia. But still, it does look like we have a decent chance of seeing some scattered rain once again, and we are going to have a fairly windy Wednesday that could carry on into Thursday as well. So first things first, let's talk about the day one storm outlook, which we have seen our south and southeasternmost counties in a green shaded area. So basically a low wind level 1 covering the bases. If we do see a severe thunderstorm warning or two, that just means that a couple of storms could have some gusty winds, some heavy downpours, not necessarily just secluded to this far area down in our south and southeast that is in the yellow or green shade, excuse me. We could see some areas that are a little bit west of this included in maybe a strong or a severe thunderstorm warning. The weather doesn't necessarily obey the boundaries that they are given by the SPC and these storm outlooks. This just shows where we have more confidence of the impacts. So the farther south and southeast that you do travel, I do remain confident that that's going to be your better chance of rain. That's going to be where some of your feels-like numbers aren't going to be as long-lived in the triple digits, maybe into the mid-triple digits, as opposed to some other areas of central Georgia. But then we pick up with the day 2 storm outlook for Tuesday, no risk whatsoever. And then we go into the day 3 outlook, no risk once again. This doesn't mean that we can't see a strong or even a severe thunderstorm warning. We have seen plenty of days where we're not in a risk whatsoever, but 1 or 2 stray warnings pop up. But it's not going to be a very organized severe weather threat whatsoever. Today, they just have a little bit more confidence in the humidity and some of those temperatures being a little bit warmer farther down to the south and the southeast, and that's why they have issued a risk down there, just a low wind level 1 to kind of cover the bases. But you know the drill by now. It's going to be a lot more likely that you just deal with a scattered shower or no rain whatsoever, as opposed to receiving a strong or a severe thunderstorm warning. So let's talk about the wind gusts. We don't typically talk about this too much because you kind of know that you might have a steady breeze during the summertime months and those occasional localized and isolated gusts that can get up there associated with some stronger weather. So this is 3 p.m. this afternoon, steady breeze out of the north, maybe getting up to about 10 miles per hour. If we are to go into the night, you did see some of those flashes of green, and not really green, I guess some flashes of the yellow. Now we go into Tuesday evening, where once again, some occasional gusts that can be a little bit higher than 10 to 15 miles per hour are going to be possible. But what I want to turn your attention to is all of these wind arrows over here off the Atlantic coast of the United States. Of course, coastal cities like Charleston, Savannah, down to Brunswick are looking like they'll have some gustier winds than areas farther inland. But down here in the very bottom of the graphic, kind of close to the Jacksonville area, you can start to see maybe some counterclockwise circulation, those winds kind of moving in the backwards direction, like what the circle in my hand is doing, and also what a clock would do if it was moving backwards. So you can see that there's trying to get a little bit of circulation down there to the south of us, and that could indicate some possible tropical development. And then as we go into your Wednesday afternoon, some of those gustier winds do try to make it a little bit farther onshore, but overall it doesn't look terribly organized down to the south. We're still trying to keep our eyes out for what potential impacts we could have, but so far it does just look maybe a little bit gustier for your Wednesday afternoon as opposed to the next couple of days. But overall, the next 3 days are a very similar and a very typical July forecast here in central Georgia. 97 for a high temperature on Monday, 20% chance of a shower or a storm, maybe going up to about 30%. I don't think it's going to be too much of a downtick as compared to what we have Tuesday and Wednesday. And in fact, today's the only day we're even included in some sort of severe weather outlook. So go ahead and treat that like about a 30% chance of a scattered shower or a storm. And we will continue that train on into Tuesday and Wednesday. In fact, I'll spoil it a little for you. 30% chance of rain each and every day on your 7-day forecast. But we will see a little bit of a downtick, going down 2 degrees each and every day for the high temperatures. That will provide us with a little bit of relief for those afternoon heat indices, but overall it's not going to be too much relief because the humidity is still going to stay in the forecast. So it will make these high temperatures that I have forecasted feel a couple degrees warmer, just maybe not necessarily to heat advisory criteria. We may still flirt around with that criteria for your Tuesday afternoon. However, I think by Wednesday we can finally get below that criteria for a little bit of relief, but of course it's still going to be hot each and every day. We'll just see that steady downtick in afternoon highs from Tuesday into Wednesday, Thursday, and all the way into Friday to wrap up the work week, getting back closer to average, even a degree or two below average, which would not be a bad thing whatsoever. It's a lot better than the temperatures in the upper 90s like we have for today, paired up with that humidity. But I did mention a little bit earlier in the stream that yes, we have not hit the 100-degree mark so far in the year of 2025. I know those feels like numbers have been well above the 100-degree mark many days over the past month or so, but the actual high temperature, the highest that we've climbed, has been 98 degrees. So with a high forecast of 97 today, that we could climb maybe a degree or two higher. I'm not necessarily too confident in hitting the 100-degree mark today, but regardless, whenever we do hit that 100-degree day, it would be behind average, because on average we typically see that first triple-digit high sometime around the beginning of July, the end of June into the beginning of July, July 2nd to be specific. So we're already running about 12 days past that time frame. Nowhere near the latest recorded first 100-degree day of all time here since we started taking records, which was September 18th. But that's a good example to show you that, hey, just because we haven't gotten to the triple digits yet doesn't mean that we're out of the thick of it, really, because we still have to go through the rest of July. We still have to go through the rest of August. And on occasion, we can see some very warm Septembers. Once we get past Labor Day, and temperatures are hovering a little bit cooler, but not when we hit this 100-degree high on September 18th. Don't quite remember what year that was, but thankfully, we weren't very early to the punch like 2019, where we hit 100 degrees for a high temperature as early as May 26, right even before many high schools had graduated and many folks had even gotten out of school for the summer. So humidity day by day is not going to do much. We are going to see a little bit of fluctuation. Overall, hanging out somewhere that is going to be more than likely in the 70s. I'm not really buying this. You can see it's right on the dividing line, but indicating some light green color, and there is none of that to be found on the dew point temperatures. So I think we're going to hover a little bit above where this line does sit, maybe trying to tick down between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's all kind of up in the air. I don't really see anything that's going to influence our humidity very drastically. So what that means is, number one, your feels like temperatures are going to continue to hover around the triple digits or even above the triple digits. How about 105 by 7 p.m. later on tonight up in the Macon area? Of course, a little bit cooler down to the south and the southeast, where it does look like maybe some showers and some storms could pop up. Going into tomorrow, it only pops up 99 right here for the actual numbers, but you can see some patchy areas of pink, which of course indicate feels like numbers above the triple digit threshold. But going down to the south of us, take a look. This is probably the best definitive indication we can get of any circulation, and it's down to the south of us near the peninsula of Florida. It's going to continue to make its way farther over to the west over the coming days after that. And then we go into Wednesday. We're still keeping the muggy air around. That muggy air that you can wear will influence what it feels like by roughly about 10 degrees on some select areas. But now let's go into the tropics, because it's been something I've been trying to pick out on each and every graphic that we've had. So far, what we're monitoring is this. Over to the east of Florida, we're picking it out on the satellite and radar imagery. So you can see where this yellow X is indicated, kind of where we're starting to see some deep convection pop up in that warm Atlantic water off the eastern coast of Florida, excuse me. And now we go over the peninsula of Florida, and then this is the shaded area that we are continuing to monitor, which does correlate with that climate prediction that I was telling you about last week. The northern Gulf is going to be an area that we need to monitor past that whole week time frame, and now we are past that and we're getting into this week. So we have some chances of potential development with this as it does cross over the peninsula of Florida into that warm northern sector of the Gulf. So areas like the panhandle of Florida and getting into the Gulf Coast of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, those areas look like they're going to get an influx of rain chances, more moisture and better rain chances associated with whatever it does or does not try to organize associated with this tropical system. But right now the chances of development are still fairly slim. This is as of the 8 a.m. update earlier this morning. We'll get another update come around 2 o'clock later this afternoon. But 10% chance of developing over the next 48 hours. Over the next 48 hours, I think this system is really going to kind of struggle to move across the Florida peninsula. So that's why the chances are really slim for the next 2 days, but they're still not necessarily definitive over the course of the next week. And don't think of that as a week ahead of time going into next Monday. It's just really past that 48-hour window. But there are some slightly better chances of that happening towards the end of this week into the weekend. And I think that would definitely be the time frame if something were to potentially develop down there. So let's take it to the long-range models, see what they're picking out according to organization, maybe seeing some better rain chances in some select areas. We go to Thursday, and the state of Georgia really right here, not seeing much in the way of rain, just our typical run-of-the-mill scattered showers and maybe a thunderstorm or two. Rain chances are a lot better along those coastal areas that I was just telling you, the Gulf Coast of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, getting into Louisiana. And that's where you're going to continue to see better rain chances over to the west and southwest of us. But there are some better chances up to the north and northeast of us. This would be more so a frontal boundary just to the north that's impacting maybe many areas of the mid-Atlantic portion of the country, getting up into northern North Carolina and then some portions of Virginia right there. Well, now we're starting to see a little bit of organization heading into the end of the weekend. Could be maybe some tropical moisture over to the west, kind of merging with a frontal boundary that could be pushing in. Not definitive whatsoever, but it still looks like that could be more of an organized weather system trying to bring us some rain chances in the weekend. But right now, these long-range models are still going to fluctuate a great deal until we actually get there all the way through the end of the weekend and into the beginning of next week. But overall, you didn't see anything that was really a good indication of the GFS or the European model picking up on some organized circulation or maybe some widespread impacts. We typically see those yellow, those pink, and those red shaded areas at the core of a potential circulation. And that would move on shore. That would indicate definitely a definitive tropical system, maybe even getting into hurricane criteria. We didn't see any clear indication of that. So that's something we can kind of use to check our work, if you will, go back and make sure that we did everything right. But right now, still slim chances of developing. The best thing that I can tell you right now is a windy day for central Georgia associated with whatever does try to get organized. That would be on Wednesday, and the rain chances are going to be enhanced. Say you have any travel plans over to coastal areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and especially down on the Florida Panhandle, Pensacola, Destin, Panama City, all of those areas are going to have some increased rain chances as you head into the end of the work week and into the weekend. But back home here in central Georgia, like I said, looking back on it now, I would probably up today to about a 30% chance of a shower or a storm, especially down to the south and the southeast. You do have the potential for maybe seeing a stronger or a severe thunderstorm warning in nature. 97 for a high today, 95 on Tuesday, and then it's a train of 93s Wednesday all the way through Friday. And along with that, that's just continuing with the 30% chance of seeing a shower or a storm each and every day all the way through next week. We try to see a little bit of a temperature rebound as we head into Saturday and into Sunday. But right now, it's going to just really be a typical summertime forecast, typical July forecast, hot, humid, and the chance that you see some rain each and every day, but a much better likelihood that you do remain dry. And going off that tropics, if we are to see something potentially develop, the next name on the list is going to be the D name. That is going to be Dexter. We've gotten Tropical Storm Andrea, Tropical Storm Barry, and Tropical Storm Chantal so far in the Atlantic hurricane season. Forgot to turn that graphic on, but that would be our 4th named storm if that system wants to get its act together and try to move on shore and gain some kind of organization. So what we can expect, Wednesday, going to probably be a bit of a windy day, maybe even getting into the later portions of Tuesday as well. And then after that, it looks like it will increase the rain chances on the Gulf Coast states. But back here at home, not seeing any signs of anything really drastically improving our rain chances. But we'll continue to stay updated for some changes and continue to keep a close eye on it over the next couple of days. That will do it for your extended forecast for this Monday morning. We'll be back tomorrow, tomorrow at 10:30, and we'll provide you with any updates that we see with the forecast. Otherwise, make sure you're taking care of your body, hydrate, 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 and of course, take frequent breaks in the shade. Try to keep your body cool in this blistering heat. Keep your fingers crossed for maybe a bit of a shower to cool those temperatures down.